Bruchim Haboim, welcome everyone. So before we start, we're talking about the next few weeks, right? We have most of the classes have already ended for the season, semester, whatever, and Marty's is going to be suspended until after Pesach. So we're going to still be here, at least through Pesach, really until the end of May. I'm wondering, would people want to continue coming for the next few weeks before Pesach?
David,
Yes?
would it be easier for them or you to have the 10 o'clock slot?
Have a 10 o'clock as opposed to 11 o'clock? What does everybody
Would
think?
be better.
10 o'clock is better? Okay, so 10 o'clock on Wednesdays again, or go back to Tuesday? Wednesday's good, okay.
I know it's
Just
good for 2 weeks at least, 2, maybe 3.
good for, okay. All right, so then we'll go to 10 o'clock on Wednesdays, except for on Chol HaMoed, we're gonna do it on Tuesday. Because I have one of our kids, a couple of our kids are coming, and one of them can only stay through Tuesday, and he wanted to participate. He sees it online, but he wants to be able to.
Probably not good to have it Chol HaMoed.
Because
People have things they're doing.
on Chol HaMoed. Well, so we'll see what happens. But all right. So for the next 2 weeks, it's going to be Wednesday at 10, and we'll continue. We'll see as long as people want to keep coming. It's fun for me. So I don't like to talk to myself, but if I'm talking to a group, it's fun for me. So I would want to continue it. Okay. So to extend our Karas Hatov to our learning sponsors, a year of learning for Rabbi Chaim Shapiro, Rav Chaim ben Shlomo Aaron, a year of learning in memory of Saul Chapman, Yisrael Kalman ben Moshe, a year of learning by the Friends of Judy Garber in her memory, Yehudis Bat Shalom, a year by the Friends of Alvin Greenfield in his memory, Avram ben Yaakov, a month of learning by Josh and Carol Sanborn in memory of his father, Shmuel Aryeh ben Baruch, and his mother, Chiana Bat Aryeh Lev, a month by Andrea and David Dolney in memory of her mother, Adel Tzina Bat Shimshon, a month of learning by Jill and Perry Meltzer in memory of her father, Yaakov ben Yosef, a month by Meir and Chaya Sarah Briban and Michael Briban in memory of Meir and Michael's father, Zelig ben Moshe, their mother, Bela Bat Elimelech, their uncle, Mendel ben Elimelech, and Chaya Sarah's father, Menashe ben Yitzchak Isaac. A day of learning by Joseph Strassler in memory of his mother, Chaya Bat Yenta Yitzchak, or Chaya Bat Yenta Yitzchak, I guess, and a day by Sandra and Marty Levine, and Brenda and Edward Parver, in memory of Sandra and Brenda's father, Betzalel ben Avraham Yehuda. May their neshamos have an aliyah.
Amen.
The last 2 weeks, we took a little break from our regular study of Gemara. We're working on the Gemara Bava Basra. The last couple of weeks, we did the Mishnayos of Purim, and now we're going to get back to Bava Basra, which I think might be what we'll stick with for a while, this Masechta Bava Basra, because it has a lot of applicability to today, really. It's very practical, business law, real estate law, contracts, and so on, and we all can kind of relate to it. So we're actually now on the second half of the second page, Daf Beis Amud Beis. Just to give a quick review, because we haven't been talking about this for a couple of weeks, the situation is that two people, and it could be more, but the Mishnah, the Gemara tries to keep it simple by making as few partners as possible, where you have two partners who are living in a courtyard, and their houses are built facing into the courtyard, and they share the space in the courtyard, and then they decide, whether one decides or they both decide, that they want to divide up the common area of the courtyard, and so one would have one side and one would have the other side, and what are the rules relating to that. So it's a discussion of, if one decides that he wants to divide, is the other one obligated to go along with it? If they both agree, what material should be used to build this separation? Could it be just basically like a few board slats type of thing, or does it need to be built out of stone? And what the decision is basically is that whatever is the custom in the area. So if it's customary to build it out of bricks in your location, so you build it out of bricks. if it's stones, different types of stones, and then each one has to donate land to accommodate this common wall, and how that all works. So then what's going to happen today is that the Gemara is going to get into a discussion of a concept called hezek re'iyah. That means the damage caused by viewing, by observing, by seeing. And the idea is that if I'm living in a home, or in let's say I have a courtyard, I have a backyard behind my house or whatever, do I want my neighbor to be constantly looking at what I'm doing in there? Is that something that I want? And certainly if it's in my home, there could be private things going on in there. Do I want somebody watching? And is that watching or looking or observing or whatever by my neighbor, is that a damage that it's causing to me? In other words, am I suffering by the fact that he's looking? So beyond the fact that I'm annoyed by it, but is there really a damage? So the Gemara is going to try to establish that, and they're going to try 6 different ways to try to establish that this is happening. Yes, Herschel.
Is the neighbor allowed to look? Is there a prohibition against him looking?
The neighbor, that's a very interesting question. Is he permitted to be looking? So basically, we're not supposed to be watching what's going on in our neighbor's backyard. It's certainly not in his house, and not in the private areas of the home. We're not supposed to be doing that. But the question is, if he does it hurt me? Does it cause a damage to me? So they believe, by the way, in ayin hara, right? We say it all the time. We say b'li ayin hara, we say kinahara, right? We talk about our wonderful grandchildren because we're afraid that right? Because we're afraid that someone else might not have such great grandchildren, and we say something nice about our grandchildren that they're going to have in their mind that our grandchildren shouldn't be so happy. Maybe they should suffer. So that's called an ayin hara. So in the same way, if 2 farmers have properties bordering each other, and one of them is having a very good crop, the other one not so good, so the one that's not doing so well might look at his neighbor and have a bad thought about him, and the Gemara seems to believe that can have an effect. So in that sense, there is that. So you're not really supposed to be making your neighbor uncomfortable, that's for sure. And if it could be causing a damage, so then that's definitely something you don't want to do. So we're going to start. You have a little tape flag in the text of the Gemara in the Hebrew and in the English, and we'll start with the Gemara in the Hebrew. And the Gemara says the hezek re'iyah lav shmei hezek. So they're saying the hypothesis is that this looking or watching, observing someone's property is not real. It's not a real damage that you're causing to them. And the Gemara is going to try to prove it. And now in parentheses it says Simon, and Simon means this is a mnemonic device. It's going to give you 6 different attempts to prove this. And so the 6 different ones are Gina, Kosel, Kofin, Vecholkin, Chalonos, the Rav Nachman. So it's the 6 different ways. The first one relates to a garden. Gina is a garden. Kosel is a wall. So that's going to be the opening phrase of each of these attempts. Kofin means coercion, you can force. Cholkin means dividing. Chalonos is windows, and then the last one is Rav Nachman. So to get started, it says in the Mishnah. So if we go back to our Mishnah, where it talks about the different materials that are used to build the wall, and right around in the middle of the Mishnah it says v'chein begina. So too in a garden. So the Gemara says Gina, right? V'chein begina. So that means that's letting you know that a garden is one where this kind of damage can be taking place, or you should be required to build a wall in a garden. And the Gemara says Gina shiny. This idea of a garden is different. Why? Kid Rabbi Abba. According to the statement Rabbi Abba, to Amar Rav Abba, Amar Rav Huna, Amar Rav. So Rav Abba said in the name of Rav Huna, who's quoting Rav, also la'adam la'amod b'sada chavero b'shah shehi amedes b'kol maseh. you're not permitted to stand on the edge of your neighbor's field when the crop is fully grown in there, because you're going to look at that and see this wonderful crop, and you might have the wrong thought about that. So, but a garden is different, because in a garden you have different vegetables who are maturing at different times. So it's always in that state. So of course, you know, certainly in a tropical climate where you can always have something growing, so you're standing there watching all year long, that could be the case. So then maybe in the case of a garden, you could be forced to build such a wall, right? Because that's always in that same situation. So, but the Gemara says, they say Vaha Kain Katani, and we learn that where the Mishnah is saying V'chein Begina, it's not necessarily meaning that you must build a wall in a garden because of the nature of a garden, because that word V'chein relates to the building material. So because we just said that the walls, if it's in a place where you build with smooth stones, you use smooth stones. If it's a place where they use rough stones, you use rough stones, bricks, etc. So what the Mishnah is saying, according to the statement of the Gemara, is that it's not saying that you must build a wall in a garden. It's just saying that if you do build a wall, and they're not saying yes or no, or not saying you're required to or not, the same rules apply in terms of the material. If in your area bricks are used, when you build the wall in your garden, use bricks. And that's what the word v'chein, likewise. That's referring to the material used, not necessarily that a garden requires a wall. Okay? Tashma, so the Gemara is going to try to create a proof. Kosel, right? So we dispense with Gina, right? So that's number one. Now we're on number two, where it says Kosel, right? Kosel chotzer shenafal, the garden, a wall of a chotzer that fell down, that collapsed. Mechayven oso livnos ad arba amos. That if there were a wall separating two properties in a courtyard, and it collapsed, it fell down, and now each neighbor, the two neighbors, are required to build it back up again, up to a height of 4 amos. 4 amos is between 6 and 8 feet, roughly, because an amos is the size of the forearm, and it's defined as between 18 and 24 inches. And so the issue is that if the wall is 4 amos high, you're not required to go any higher, because there's no benefit in terms of privacy. If a normal person's height is up to 4 amos, about 6 feet high, people are shorter or taller or whatever, but certainly in those days, if you had a wall that was 6 to 8 feet high, that was sufficient in terms of protecting your privacy. There's no need to have anything higher than that. So nafal. So the Gemara is trying to say that so first they present this as possible proof that you need to have this wall. So it says nafal shiny. The idea of a wall falling down is different. Why? Because they had agreed originally to build a wall. Now we're requiring them to rebuild it. That's nothing new. And it's not because of this hezek re'iyah, this damage being caused by looking at you. The wall was there from a long time ago. They agreed to build the wall, and now we're saying if it did fall down, it collapsed, build it back up again. Okay? And so the person who started this discussion in the Mishnah, so why did he say that in terms of the wall that fell down? Didn't he know that was the rule? Right? I mean, he knew that was the rule. So why did he say it? He said it because later on in the Mishnah, where it says midalad amos ulamala ein mechayven oso, that we don't obligate him to build a wall that's taller than 4 amos. So that's why he brings this statement over here that the wall must be rebuilt, and that's up to a height of 4 amos. Okay, so we've eliminated the second one, right? So because there's no proof from this statement that they must rebuild the wall that is to protect your privacy, or that viewing someone else is causing him damage. So let's try a third time. So the Gemara says, Tashma, come in here. We're going to listen to another Mishnah which says, Kofin oso livnos beis shar v'delas lechotzer. So now that's the word kofin, right? which means we force, we coerce. And we're talking about building a base shar is like a gatehouse. Not necessarily occupied by a guard like what we have, but the way that they built the walls around the courtyards is they had one part extending a little bit and overlapping. So it wasn't exactly like the two sides met. One of them extended a little bit forward and it overlapped a little bit, so you couldn't see in from the open where the opening. So when the gate was inside, that gate was open, you couldn't see in from the street because there was a little section that overlapped, so you couldn't see through it. And that's called a base shar. It's called a gatehouse. So, and we learned in the Mishnah that you can require, you can compel your neighbor to participate in the building of this base shar. So, okay, that seems like that's being built to protect your privacy, right? So he says that would seem to be correct. So Shema Minoah Hezek Riyah Shmei Hezek. So that would seem that if we have to build this extension of the wall, why are we building it? We're building it for protection of privacy, right? So you would think that that's good proof. But the Gemara says no. Hezek derabim shani. What's the difference here? The difference is that you are protecting the interior of your courtyard, of your property, from the view of many people. There's your courtyard is open to the street, right? And a lot of people are going back and forth on that street. So if you have all those people going back on the street, that could be annoying to you. So whether it's your next door neighbor, that doesn't prove anything. This does not prove that your neighbor is looking at your property or looking at what's going on back in your backyard is a damage to you. Whether if you don't, nobody wants everybody in the neighborhood, the whole street. Nobody wants to stand out on Lyons Road or have everybody going along Lyons Road be able to see in our backyards. We wouldn't want that, right? But maybe within our own little courtyard, we don't mind. So, and therefore, so it says Hezek derabim shiny. The viewing of the public is different. Udiyachid lo, but if it's only one person, maybe it's not so terrible. So now again, this doesn't work. So now we've eliminated the third one. So let's try a fourth way. So Toshma, let's try something else. In another Mishnah it says ein cholkin es a chatzer, right? So that's that word cholkin in this mnemonic device. So they don't divide. They can't be forced to make a division in the property. Ad sheheba arba amos lezev, arba amos lezev. So if you remember, when they divided up the courtyards, there has to be, each one of them has enough room to be usable. So if the total size was, let's say 6x4, and now you need to divide it in half, 3x4 is not big enough to get any benefit out of it. So you cannot force your neighbor. If you want to divide that property in half, you can't force the neighbor to agree to the division because he's used to operating a place of 6x4. Maybe he's loading his truck there. Maybe whatever he's doing in there, and if it's 3x4, you can't force him. So the Gemara is saying that you can't force him unless it's at least 4x4. What remains for each of the partners, and therefore, so it would seem that maybe part of the reason for that larger size of a courtyard for each person is because you don't want him looking. He's so close to you. He's in your on
Your
top of you all the
face.
time. Well, he's in your face all the time. Thank you. So you don't want that. So then maybe it is that would be a proof that this hezek re'iyah, we're viewing, watching, is causing you a damage. So the Gemara says hezeka debayis shiny. This is different because he's so close to your house now. He's looking into your house if he's so close to you. It's not that he's looking into your backyard, right? Because in your backyard, what's going on there? Your kids are playing back there, or maybe you're taking a sunbath, whatever you're doing. But into your house, nobody wants anybody looking into your house, right? So that's different. So you can't say that in terms of the courtyard that this hezek riyah is really a hezek, because in the case of the very small division, right, that means that the person's going to be looking into your house, and nobody wants that. Okay, that's number 5 already. So let's try one more. Tashma, So we'll learn from another ruling of Rav Nachman. So Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Shmuel. So Rav Nachman said in the name of Shmuel, Gag asamach lechatzer chavero. Let's say you have a situation where, if you can picture that that maybe the houses are built on terraces, different levels or whatever, and my roof is adjoining with Eugene's yard, right? They could be on the same level. It's possible. We've seen that all over Israel, right? The way houses are built. So it could be that the roof of my house adjoins his backyard, right? So in that case, osin lo make gavoa arba amos. So on my roof, you're obligated to build a fence, a parapet, a wall around the top of your roof, because people shouldn't fall down. If somebody goes up there, it could create a danger. So you don't want to have that situation. But in the case where my roof abuts his yard, that parapet needs to be taller than it normally would. Normally the size is 10 tvachim, about 40 inches. So, if you take a look at handrails or the chair rail in this room, or railing when you go up the steps into your apartment, how tall that railing has to be, that's not 6 feet high, right? That's about 35, 40 inches, something like that. So you can grab the railing, but in the same way that if you have a railing around a roof, normally 10 tvachim, about 40 inches is enough. But here, where they're adjoining, where the roof is adjoining to a yard, you've got to go up to the 6 feet, or 6 to 8 feet. It has to be at least 4 amos high. So that seems like maybe we finally got it, right? No, the Gemara says Shani Hasam. The Gemara says that's different, because because the owner of the yard can say to the owner of the roof, right? So Eugene can come and say to me, hey, listen, Lididi kviyali tashmishi. I'm in the yard all the time. But to you, lo kviyaloch tashmisha. You're not on the roof all the time. So for me, it's annoying, because I use the yard all the time, and you are up on the roof once in a while. I don't know when you're going to be there. So if I don't know when you're going to be there, so I'm not going to know when I can, when I can take my shirt off and get the sun, right? because if I know that you're going to always be there a certain time or whatever it is, so but if I don't know when that is, you better build it high enough. So it's not because I'm so concerned that you're going to look at me and you're going to cause me damage. It's because I don't know your habits, and I don't want to disturb you. I don't want you to disturb me, and therefore I want you to build this wall at least 4 amos high, and that's the ruling. So, because I don't know when you're going to be there, and it's like an irregular use that you're going to have. Slika says, therefore, I don't know when you're going to be coming, and I'm not going to know when I have to put my shirt back on, or whatever it is that I'm doing up there. So okay, so now we've gone through these 6 possibilities, and we did not prove that hezek riyah is called a hezek. So now the Gemara is going to go back, going to leave this for a while and go back to the discussion of what is a mechitza, because the Mishnah starts out, right? It says that if they want to make a mechitza, right? It says shufim sheratzu lasos mechitza b'chatzer. If they want to make a mechitza, so we assume that mechitza means a wall, but maybe not. And now the Gemara is going to discuss what is a mechitza. So we're now on the top of Daf Gimel Amud Aleph, page 3a, right? And it says, when it's you have it. It's on the second page of your handout, right? Okay. So it says Lishna Achrina Amar La. So another version of this discussion about the mechitza. So Vrua my mechitza. What is the real definition of mechitza? So the definition of it is plukta. So plukta is Amar La. So Vrua my mechitza plukta. That what is a mechitza? It means a division. Doesn't necessarily mean a wall. It could be just a division, because it says in the pasuk, it says "V'tehei mechatzas ha'eda." So, and that means the division of the congregation. It's discussing what part of the nation went out to war and they came back and so on. But the point is that the idea of the word mechitza, which is like mechitza, means a division, not necessarily a physical barrier, a physical separation. Okay? V'kivan deratzu, and since they wanted to divide the wall, right, they decided that they wanted to divide it, bonin es hakosel b'al korchan. So once they decided to divide it, now if Tova and Herschel decide that they want to divide their wall, their courtyard, so Tova can say to Herschel, okay, we agreed to divide it, now we have to divide it by building a wall. Okay? So it's not the issue that the mechitza means a wall, it's the fact that we are dividing it, and now how do we divide it? How do we indicate that? We do it by building a wall. And then the wall, whether it's made of stone or brick or whatever it's made out of, that depends on the practice in the area. Okay, so now the Gemara says, Alma hezek riyah, shmei hezek. And now that would indicate that this idea of looking at the neighbor is really causing damage to the neighbor, right? Because we agreed to divide it. We could easily divide it by just putting a row of little stones on the ground or something like that, or draw a line in the sand, as one of our presidents is said to have done. But you can somehow or other indicate it without building a wall. So once you've decided to divide it, why do you need the wall? It would seem that shows that this idea of looking at your neighbor is causing a damage to the neighbor, right? So that's like not only is taking your privacy away, but it's causing you an actual damage. So ema mai mechitza. So what does the word mechitza mean? Guda. Guda means a wall. So it's another. It's not that there are real synonyms, right? Because there's no such thing as an actual synonym. But Guda means a wall. And when the Mishnah says mechitza, it's talking about a wall. The Sanya, because we learned in a brisa, mechitza sakerem shenifritza, in terms of a wall or a division of a vineyard, and the wall was breached, Omar lo gedor. So now the owner of the field, if you have a situation where you have a vineyard on one side and let's say a wheat field on the other side, and you have to build, and there's a wall between them, because if there's no wall, the crops have to be planted further apart, because you're concerned about kilaya karam, that the roots of my crop could interfere or get tangled up in the roots of your crop, and we could create a situation where in some manner we're making a sort of a hybrid, and that's not allowed. That's called kilaya karam, and it's the Kilayim is two different species, and karam means in a vineyard. So if you don't build a wall, you have to stay a distance away, far enough that your ox and plow can go through, because you got to be able to work there. But if you put the fence up, you can build it right. You can plant your crop right up to the edge of the wall. So now, if that wall falls down, for whatever reason, you've got a problem, because your crops are close together. So you need to rebuild that wall. So since they had agreed to build the wall, it's their obligation to rebuild that wall. So it's not because of this hezek re'iyah, it's because of the kilayim, right? Because the wall was broken, and the owner of the field, let's say the person's growing wheat in his field, can tell the owner of the vineyard to build it back up, because the obligation is on the owner of the vineyard to rebuild the wall. And then the case, we had this a couple of weeks ago, and it's Yayish Hemena Velo Gidra, and let's say the owner of the vineyard built it up, and the wall fell down again, and built it up again, and it fell down again, and finally the person says, forget about it, I'm not going to bother with this thing. So in that case, Hareze Kidesh, so in that case, what's happening is, by not rebuilding that wall, the owner of the vineyard has made the wheat in the field next to it not kosher in a certain sense. It's climb, not allowed to eat that wheat. So now, because that person didn't rebuild the wall, which was his obligation, the owner of the wheat field has been damaged, right? And v'chayev b'chariyusya, and the owner of the vineyard is obligated to make good for that damage, right? Because they caused this problem to their neighbor. V'taima, and why can the court force these people to build up a wall? Because because they had agreed to build a wall, and once they've agreed to build a wall, the court can compel the reluctant partner to chip in, to pay his share to build this wall. Halo ratzu, but if they never agreed to build it, the court can't force the reluctant partner to contribute. So in the case of the vineyard, if they decide when they establish their planting of crops that they don't want to have a wall, so then they just space the crops far enough apart, not an issue. But if they've agreed that they're going to go with a system where they're going to be able to plant right up to almost up to the property line, then they've got to build a wall. And once they've agreed to that, the partner who doesn't want to pay his share can be forced by the court to pay the wall. And so that shows Alma Hezek Ria Lo Shmei Hezek. So you haven't proved to me that my looking into your field is causing you damage, because this doesn't work either, right? We tried all these other ways, and now we're trying to say that it's because of the requirement to build a wall, and that doesn't work either, because it's basically to protect the crop, not necessarily that you don't want to have somebody looking over there into your property. So, if it's true that the word mechitza means a wall, right? So bonin es a kosel. Why then does the Mishnah say? Because we continue to read. Because don't forget, the Mishnah does not put in extra words, and the Mishnah, maybe I've said this before, but Rabbi Teitz, he should rest in peace, used to say that the Mishnah is like a telegram, very short. So if you've ever received a telegram, I got telegrams on my bar mitzvah, and so they put a couple of words, then it says stop and all that. So it's very, very, very short. And the Mishnah is like that. The Gemara more or less expands on it, and the commentaries beyond. But when the Mishnah says a word, it's not by accident that word is there. So what does it say here? It says hashufim sherotzu lasos mechitza, if they want to make this mechitza, the separation, and then it says bonin es hakoso, they build the wall. So if you're going to tell me that mechitza means wall, why does it have to say they build the wall? It just said they want to make a mechitza. Mechitza means a wall. Why do you have to say they build the wall? And so the Gemara says, if mechitza means wall, bonin es hakosel. So why does it say bonin es hakosel? It could just say bonin oso mi boile. It could have just said they have to build it, right? If they want a wall, they have to build it. It doesn't say that if they want a wall, they have to build a wall. That word koso, that word wall, is an extra word, and it serves no purpose, and therefore the Mishnah wouldn't say it. So what the Gemara is trying to tell us now is that the word mechitza does not necessarily mean wall, because if it did mean wall, you wouldn't need to have the extra word wall coming 3 or 4 words later. Okay, ela mai plukta. So then, what does this word koso? What does the division really mean? If what it means is they want to make a division, not necessarily a wall, they want to make a division in the property. So what does that mean? They should have just said Ratzu lachatzos. Lachatzos means chetzi, right? It's comes to a chetzi, half. So they want to make half on my side, half on your side. So that's also another word for division, right? I want to cut it in half, so I'm dividing it. So now you have a problem with this word, because if you're going to say mechitza, you could have just said ratzu lachatzos. They wanted to divide it in half. So again, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to build a wall, right? Because mechitza doesn't necessarily mean a wall. So kidamri inshi, as people say, ha navid pluta. Let's make a division. So it's like in the vernacular they speak that way, and it doesn't prove that what they want to do is build a wall. Okay, so now we're still on that same issue. Is hezek ria? Is it really a damage? Is it causing a damage? And the Gemara says again, the hezek ria shmei hezek. So if this hezek ria where I'm looking into your property and that's causing you damage, my area Ratsu, so why does it have to say that they want to divide? Because if I'm looking into Marty's backyard and it's causing him a damage, well, the court can force me to participate in the building of this wall, right? Because if he's annoyed and he wants to build a wall, I can be forced to because I'm causing him damage by looking in there, right? So then why does it have to say imrotsu if they want to? I don't have to want to. They can make me if I'm causing him a damage, right? Because I can't just cause damage to my neighbor. So same thing, lo rotsunami, whether I want to or not, I can be forced to build this wall. So you get what's going on here? Basically, the Mishnah is the Gemara is trying to clarify exactly what is the Mishnah meaning, and you know it seems like this is fun for me. I don't know if it's fun for you, but to see exactly what do the words mean, because the words that we use and the words that the Mishnah and the Gemara use mean something, right? Words have meaning, and so we want to get exactly what is meant by these rules. So again, whether I want to or not, I can be compelled to participate in the building of this wall, because I can be forced to pay my share. So Amar Ravasi, Amar Rav Yochanan. So Ravasi says in the name of Yochanan, he says Mishnah Seinu Kishain based in Ein Badin Chaluka. So okay, so now what we're talking about, he says, is a situation where the courtyard is not one in which a division can be compelled. And what is that? If the size of each half is going to be smaller than 4 by 4, right? Then you can't force the neighbor to agree, because he has to be able to use it. So 4 by 4, and actually the Gemara is going to say later on 8 by 4, because you have to have room if you want to load and unload your donkey. You have to have room to get that donkey in there, unload the donkey, and then move the merchandise, whatever it is that you do. So if the piece that will be left, so if I divide it in half, because I want to divide it for whatever reason, I want to divide it, and he's left with a piece that's less than what the Gemara considers usable, right? He can't be forced to participate in that. So what did you have a question, or you just stressed your? No. Okay. So what Ravasi is saying is that this is only what the Mishnah is talking about in the case of Ratsu, where they want. Yes.
Finish the union, it's not a question. Finish.
Okay. So it's only where you can't force the neighbor, because when it winds up being divided, he's left with something he can't use. So if he agreed to it, you know, like all I want to put out there is a lawn chair, and I don't care if it's 4 by 4, which would be like 8 feet by 8 feet, just for my lawn chair, and I don't need such a big space. Like my front porch is not that big, so I would go along with it if I agreed to it. But if I don't agree to it, you can't force me.
Can he change his mind?
Can who
Let's
change
just
his
say
mind?
the neighbor agrees to this division. Then
Right.
he realizes, maybe now it's too small.
No.
Well, what do you think? I mean, have they already built the wall? They've already invested money, and, you know. So he's agreed to it. So he gave up his right to have that larger.
Nowhere will the Gemara consider or participate. Is there anywhere where the Gemara will consider damage, any kind of mental anguish that it's caused by, to the person who, say, has somebody who's, I don't know, for want of a better word, a peeping Tom or whatever,
Right.
looking into his property?
So that's what we're trying to establish. We're trying
We're only
to.
doing on physical damage we've been talking about till now. I'm talking about emotional damage, mental damage.
Yeah, we're trying to establish that. So we're going through all different ways of saying that, well, maybe it's this and maybe it's that, and then and each time we come up with an idea, so they can refute that particular idea. So we're going to continue on the same vein to try to come to a decision whether my looking into your backyard is causing a damage to you, and in most cases it's going to be a mental damage, because if you're watching to see that I'm grilling steaks on my barbecue, whatever it is. You know, it's not really causing me a physical damage, but it's annoying to me because you're saying, well, how come you have steak and I don't have whatever it is, or maybe your steak is not kosher, whatever. So you don't want to have people looking at you. It's annoying to you, basically. But the question is it really causing a damage, Karen?
Well, again, you know, I mean, I was thinking the same thing. If you have, if I have a daughter and she's out playing and I got this guy next door who's watching her, it could be creepy and it could cause her trauma. Just
Exactly.
knowing that this guy is stalking her. So then, you know, then I've got the psychologist skills.
Exactly right. So you don't want your kids to be watched by the neighbor who's like an annoying person. So that's causing you some kind of a damage. So the Gemara is trying to establish that because if it is a damage, then you can force the other person to put that wall up, right? That's what we're getting to. So, but the question is it really a damage? And they go through different cases, different scenarios, and they say, well, not really in this case because of this or that. And we're going to continue. Yes, Herschel.
There will be, right? There will be.
I'm not going to give it. I'm not going to tell you what it's going to be. Yes, Herschel.
If I was sitting in discussing with these personalities in the Gemara,
Right.
I would ask the question, maybe it's been asked somewhere, well, maybe it behooves me to, if I want privacy in my backyard, to build my own wall divider.
Right.
I want the privacy, and it's up to me, and I would do that today. If I want privacy, I'd build a high wall. Is that ever
Right, but
discussed
remember, so what Herschel's saying is that if I want to protect my privacy, I could build a wall myself. But don't forget, what we're talking about is not like
It's not private property.
it's not like private property. So it's not like our houses up north, right? Where our house is our lot is laid out a certain dimension, and the next door neighbor has a lot bordering it. So I can put up a fence on my side, no problem. What we're talking about is a common courtyard. So, for example, you know, we live in Wolverton, right? So if all the people living in Wolverton C decide that they want to take all the common property and divide it up, in Wolverton C, let's say there's only A and B in Wolverton, make it easy, okay? So half of the people live in A, half of the people live in B, and there's a courtyard in the middle. So everybody in B decides that we don't want those people in A looking at us, and we're going to build a wall down the middle. And A doesn't agree. So because just as we're concerned about them looking at us, they're concerned with using the whole swimming pool, right? They don't want to think that they have to stay on one side of the pool, that they can't use the whole pool, because up until now they've been able to. So we're going to take away a right from them in order to secure our own privacy. So the question is, are we allowed to do that? And so the Gemara is going to continue this discussion, and we're going to get at it eventually. All right. So next week we're going to do the same thing on Wednesday, 10 o'clock in the morning. Okay. Thank you. See you next week.